Welcome to Coffee with the Preacher. Here the coffee is hot, conversations are flavorful, and stories about God's faithfulness inspire us all. Go grab your favorite mug, prepare your coffee and your heart, and join us as we sit down with pastors, missionaries, and ministry leaders to share uplifting and powerful testimonies of God's goodness. Together, let's find encouragement, wisdom, and strength for our journey of faith. Let us taste and see that the Lord is good.
Welcome to Coffee with the Preacher. I am Gavino Hernandez.
And I am Bob Mack.
Hey, and we are super excited to be with everybody today. Very eventful week since basically it's been very eventful since the last time that we have talked, since we've been done our pod. And we've had a very good conversation. Well, I'll say I have had a very good conversation with our special guest today. And he's a good friend of mine. His name is Isaiah Carr. He is a newer missionary out on the field, in the field of Zambia. Brother Isaiah, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, brother. All right, we're just going to break the ice here very quickly because, as I've already said off camera about 20 minutes ago, I was rushing to get in here, and we're going to just, our energy is very high already, and we're trying to get into settle in this. So we're going to break the ice, grab a sledgehammer, break this. So these are both of these guys are my best friends inside the ministry. They know of each other because I communicate with them and tell them about each other. And we kind of started deputation similar times, and we've been able to help each other out in certain areas. And Bob and Isaiah actually had the same videographer that did their videos. So that's a pretty cool connection there. And if anybody is looking for a good videographer, Brother Andy Gwynn, right, is his name. That one that did that, he is a very good friend, I think, of both of you guys. Or I don't know how you guys kind of stumbled on him, but I've seen a lot of his stuff actually on deputation. Very good quality, very good guy, and I actually follow him on social media. So shout out to Andy Gwynn, wherever he is. I'm Gavino. Hi, Andy. I kind of weird. I've never met you in person, but I know of your work. So, hey, so I wanted to kind of jump on. We wanted to jump on here with Coffee with the Preacher and bring in Brother Isaiah because I want to focus in on something very important. We talk about missionaries and we talk about different, what's your experience? We kind of touched on that last week or 2 weeks ago whenever we did the last pod. Bob and I kind of talked about our experience on being in the field, growing up in the field, and then coming and then now doing deputation on our own and now representing ourselves and our personal families. But we don't talk about culture shock. And I arrived to Mexico, I was 9 years old. And if somebody says, oh, that wasn't bad, and you didn't have any culture shock, yes, because there isn't McDonald's like there's McDonald's in the States. And we don't have Taco Bell in Mexico, FYI.
That's real Mexican food. How do you not have Taco Bell in Mexico?
You know what? There is nothing more authentic than Taco Bell at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That is authentic. And anybody that's been on deputation and understands that when you're at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're like, we haven't eaten all day today. We're going to jump off and go get some Taco Bell. Hey, it's not healthy for you, but it's good. And yes, Mexicans do love Taco Bell. Okay. That is a fun fact. Isaiah is Peruvian, and he loves Taco Bell too. Yeah. So I don't know. He's like, I don't like Taco Bell.
I'll eat a chicken quesadilla.
There you go. Chicken quesadilla. Hey, I love the sauce on the chicken quesadillas there at Taco Bell. But Brother Isaiah, what I want to kind of jump off here and kind of wrap our heads around is give us a little bit of your salvation testimony. You don't have to go too in depth with it. I know I've heard it several times, and then how you kind of met your wife. We'll just kind of condense that a little bit because we want to focus in a little bit more on how deputation was, and then how you're jumping into ministry full-fledged in a new country. So the floor is all yours.
Sure. No, so I grew up and in the Pensacola, Florida area. I grew up in a Christian home. My dad is Pensacola resident, and my mother, she grew up in Lima, Peru, and she got saved through BIMI missionaries that were in Peru, and she was led to the Lord there. Later on, moved to Pensacola, go to Pensacola Christian College, and eventually had a common friend, got my parents together, and she got married, and I came along and grew up again in a Christian home, in church all the time. I mean, a Awana program, memorizing Bible verses. But as a child, I mean, I knew, had all the head knowledge, and I even threw up a quick little prayer one day. My mom was asking me some Bible review questions, like one of the questions, "Are you saved?" And throw a quick little prayer up. Yeah, I'm saved. But in my heart, I knew that I was lost. And several months later, as a 6-year-old boy, I remember kneeling down there at the top bunk of my bed there in Isabella Road in Cantonment, Florida. And I asked the Lord Jesus Christ to move my heart, save me from my sins. And I'm grateful for that day that I got born again. And as a teenager, of course, is growing in the Lord. At a youth conference, we were in North Carolina, with my church. We're at this youth conference, and the preacher was preaching on a message, "Would the King call for you?" Who's preaching out of about Abishai, and the Lord was working in my heart. I felt really it was through that, like the Lord was calling me into the ministry, and surrendered to that. You could say that call to preach. It's kind of changed the direction. Even when I was in high school, I mean, I was kind of making plans to think, well, maybe I'll do something like law enforcement or something down the road. But I eventually graduated, went to a Bible Institute. I ended up going to the Rochester, New York area. My home church, the church up there, we had some common threads. And while I was in Bible Institute in 2018, I had the opportunity to go to Zambia on a missions trip. And we went on this trip to visit a family, the Matachera family. They were out of the church there in New York. And we came here to Zambia. It was a great trip. We did a lot of, you say, more ministry work in the villages. And at the end of that trip, I felt in my heart that God was calling me to missions. Now, at that point, I really wasn't sure if it was Zambia or not. In my heart, I mean, I was kind of thinking, well, maybe I'll be going to South America because I have Spanish Spanish roots, so to speak. I know some Spanish. My home church is involved in a lot of Spanish ministries, so that was just kind of in my mind, thinking, okay, that's where God's going to call me. Well, my wife, Allison, it was before we started dating, but she was on the same trip, and the Lord was even working in her heart about missions and just really surrendering everything to the Lord. Well, we got married in 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, and later on, 2022, we got to go back to Zambia. The missionary we're working with, he was on furlough, and he came through our home church. He kind of presented his ministry, and we spent some time with him. He's like, "Hey, we had a great time with you guys in Zambia. You guys should consider coming back." And we, in our minds, we're like, we felt God has called us to missions. We're not sure where. We just want to be a blessing wherever we can go. Whether it's Zambia, we were kind of thinking maybe God would call us to Guyana. We had some desires in our hearts to go there. And we're thinking, well, we'll go and just see what the Lord has for us. So we went, and on that trip, really, it was one of those moments in life where even as a young married couple, we had one child, another child on the way. We were kind of settling into that American dream, so to speak. I was just starting a new job there in town, and we had first-time homeowners. Were young, and we're thinking, yeah, we're willing to get involved in whatever the Lord calls us into, but we're thinking this is a 5-year, 6-year plan down the road. Just you kind of ease into it. You don't know what God has in store, but course, here we're just kind of thinking again, we're just trying just to be a blessing. That's it. And while we were here, the missionary asked us, said, "Hey, would you guys consider actually coming and working with us full time?" And, it was something at that time we were like, yeah, I just, maybe not right now. And we went back home and we were considering, just kind of just thinking about it, praying about it. And, even the other missionary, he kind of wrote it off thinking, you know what, it's probably, they're not coming. That's it. Well, the Lord worked in our hearts, and within a few weeks, and after getting some godly counsel, we felt like this is what God is calling us to do. And in our minds, at first we were thinking, well, maybe we need to go and visit different countries and uh, do you could say a taste around the world. But we think about that verse in Proverbs, how if you acknowledge the Lord in all thy ways, and he shall direct thy paths. And we're just trying to be obedient to the Lord, and and the Lord's going to direct the paths, and he's going to open the doors, and we don't have to be there kicking the doors down. And if we're trying to honor him, he's going to lead us and guide us the direction he wants, even if it's not the direction we think it should be. He's going to open those doors. And the Lord did open the doors. And kind of towards the end of 2022, that's when we surrendered to go to Zambia. And it took us about a year or so to kind of get everything aligned out. We had to, of course, get all the process, getting a video, calling churches, selling our house, quitting a job. And we started deputation in October of 2023, or September 23. And we finished end of kind of towards the beginning of 2025. And we got to Zambia in June. We left the U.S. June 23rd of 2025, and we've been here since. So that's a kind of in a nutshell our introduction, my testimony, everything to Zambia.
All right. So when you were talking about, you had this 5-year plan, kind of already settled in. I have a little bit more information, but it's just like you guys had already bought a really nice house. You had just started working in law enforcement. You had talked a little bit about,
Yeah.
you had considered that. As a young boy, that was a little bit of my dream to jump in and be a part of, some type of law enforcement. You were a correctionals, was how you say it? Corrections officer.
Yep.
Um, and so, you would already in what you would qualify a standard dream, and you already had the calling or of the Lord, or the impression of the Lord doing something in your life, and you're like, oh well, 5 years, 6 years down the road, maybe he'll open up the door. But you also pointed out on the verse, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. And it's one of those verses that, when the Lord starts directing, you're kind of confused because you're not 100% positive where the Lord is
Yeah.
directing you or how he's directing you. And with that being said, how scary was it in order for you to get rid of your house, to get rid of your job, and to jump into something called deputation, and to buy an RV and a truck, and to jump on the road and have promises from churches in order to have a meeting?
Yeah. No, it was definitely you could say it was an intimidating moment because I remember that time. It was just my wife and I, we were talking with each other, and I had just had a conversation with my pastor's dad, really close with him. And we I kind of, he's one of those counselors in your life that just um when you talk to him, you really listen and pay attention to what he's saying. And he said a few things, and it really kind of hit home. And we just kind of, in our hearts, we knew what God was leading us to do. We just didn't really want to come out and say it to each other. But we said, we both talked and said, this is what God wants us to do. and it definitely wasn't easy. I mean, but you know, although it wasn't easy, it wasn't those one of those things also that you're not you don't get prepared for. Um, I guess how do I say this? There's things that you do as a believer that builds you up. And and I believe different steps, if you could say, just being faithful in different ways. Even, for example, faith promise. That was one big thing. A lot of the churches where you guys and myself were a part of are involved in faith promise missions. You hear a lot of preaching on it, and I mean, most of my life you hear that, and for ourselves, we felt like we're giving a large part, and it's that you're making that step of faith, of, you could say, sacrificial giving, and the Lord uses that as a believer, I believe, to prepare you to learn how to let go of things. It wasn't it's not easy making a monthly commitment, you could say, to faith promise, but the Lord helps you, and you see, hey, you know what? God has sustained us so far. And there was even times while I was in Bible Institute. Um, I mean, you could say young college student, not much money, and working hard, and I was just giving as much as I could, and I would see the Lord sustain me, take care of me different little ways all the way through, every step by step, and you see his faithfulness. And it was one of those things where now here's what the rubber, you could say, really meets the road. And now it's not, okay, giving a portion of your income a month, but you got to give everything. And you make those commitments at the altar. You make those commitments in your time with the Lord, but it's much easier to say and promise than to actually step out and do it. But it was an intimidating moment, but at the same time, it was one of those things that I feel like the Lord, through our lives, had been preparing us already to make that step. And it was just like, once we came to grips with, hey, this is what God has called us to do, it's one of those things where you just got to trust him and say, you know what? He's brought us this far. He can take us further. And I don't know if that kind of answers your question a little bit.
Yeah.
But
it's not easy.
No,
Yeah,
no.
it's not an easy road. We're not leaning on our own understanding. And in all thy ways acknowledge him. And that's kind of where all three of us have experienced that. Uh, you don't know what the next step is, but you're trusting in the Lord with all thine heart. And I think that that's a verse that has been said time and time and time again all over this podcast from the beginning. I think since the first one, where we're going back and just looking at this, that ministry is about people. And at the same time, since it's about people, we don't know how to truly understand people 100%, but God understands them. God knows them. God knows the need of that person, even though we may not know it. And so when we're stepping out on faith, God's the one that just directing us to where we need to go. And so um he knows that and from the beginning. And so we're just kind of a piece inside of his masterpiece of ministry. And so that's kind of why
Just to
I yeah, go ahead.
just to jump into like the, there's really nothing special about us like going all in. I think it's more of an indictment against Christianity in America. This concept of like, oh my goodness, like, I'm a really good Christian, but this is a step above. Like I have to go above and beyond to give everything to God. Like this is, only the elites, only the spiritual special force operatives in our churches can go out into the foreign mission field. And there's like no strength in us, no ability in us. It's all just God. I think it's not like if we're fully committed the way that we ought to be, it's going to be a second nature to us. It's going to be not an easy decision, like, because like as men, we think of providing for our wives and for our children. We think of all the logistics that are there, and that weighs on us, and that's the way God designed it to be. But still, like if you know when we went to take that step, I'm pretty sure I can speak for all three of us. This is what we should do, because if this is what God
Exactly, yeah.
wants, then this is the safest place to be. And you have people that come up to the display table and talk with you like, "Oh my goodness, I just can't believe what you're doing." It's like, this is my reasonable service. This is the normal thing. If He's moved me in this direction, this is where I ought to go. I just think it's become so commonplace to give God 40%, maybe even 60%. But there are certain things that I'll give to God. There are ways that I'll stretch myself, and I'll step outside of my comfort zone for what He wants me to do. And then there's this whole host of other things that I would never do. It's too much. I was in teaching, through Acts and the new church, and to see a lot of the suffering that occurred like it was nothing. Even the book
Yeah.
of Philippians, it was written by Paul, who was in prison, to a church in Philippi that was actively being persecuted, and you find joy, rejoicing, or rejoiceth more often in that epistle than any other. So, just to reiterate the point that, and we've touched on this before, but God deserves everything, and the only place we're going to find happiness and fulfillment is to go there. Like, on a human standard, what Isaiah and his family did, that's like unthinkable. Good
Yeah.
job, good house, good future. Like,
Yeah.
growing up in America, it's like that's what you're going for. But in the eternal scope of things, where he is now is the most logical and the best place for him to be.
That is
Yeah.
so good because I mean, I loved how you started it off too. We're not anything special. I mean, and then
Mm-mm.
people, I mean, that kind of sits on the ego a little bit. You were not special. We're a piece of God's ultimate plan,
And
and it
God
is.
often uses my wife to remind me of that.
Hey, mine too. I think your wife can remind my wife to remind me. Hey, and then Allison jumps in on there and reminds my wife also that whatever. No, so here's this. The reality of this is that there we that reasonable service, okay. That right there, man, it's just second nature. Like you said, a second nature is something that, we I don't know if I should say this, but I've been at a church where they give me a round of applause. Praise the Lord that you're going out and you're serving. You're gonna go and you're gonna be, this missionary that's gonna just bring thousands to the Lord. And to me, I'm like, if I win one, to the Lord, if I bring one to the Lord, or if I just plant seeds, I mean, and that's all the Lord wants me to do, and He takes my life after that, then heck, I completed what the Lord had called me to do. Um, the
I
human
know this is a really politically correct podcast, but if I could be
whatever.
politically incorrect for a second, um, not to rock the boat too much, not to have too hot of a take. I do not like that expression, and I know it's so common in our circles.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
like,
like,
I went out and won these
you're
souls. No, I didn't.
yeah.
No.
I had a front row seat to what the Holy Spirit did in that moment. But like, and again, not to be that
Yeah.
guy, but
Yeah.
I've always struggled with that one.
I'm still waiting for those thousands to get saved that were supposed to happen. Like,
Yeah.
like some people will take missions trips to Africa
Mhm.
and they'll post pictures. I mean, they just get off the plane and they'll go to a market and they'll preach and, oh, we led 60 something people to the Lord. We led 200 something people to the Lord. I'm still waiting to see that.
Mhm. Well,
Hey,
my follow-up question to that is, how many were baptized, brought into the membership of the church, and discipled? That's the
Exactly.
follow-up.
ouch.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well,
So
they baptize them. They do baptize them. They get
Okay.
them saved the next day. Say, hey, let's dunk them so that they're saved and baptized.
okay. Well, there's still a third part to that.
Just-
All right, sorry,
You're not supposed to say that part.
I'll just drink my coffee here. So here's this. All right. So and I have an issue because I mean, I understand the recognition of our partners in the Lord saying, "Hey, you're taking a sacrifice, you're making a sacrifice, and you're going out, you're not staying here in the States and you're going out and you're going to another country and you're serving the Lord there. You may eat monkey brains, boo-hoo, whatever. Isaiah, you probably eat some bugs since you've been over there. I don't know if you have or not. I don't know, Bob, what you've eaten. I've eaten some weird stuff. Okay. I've eaten some weird stuff being on the mission field. But in the reality, it's part of it. So, I mean, to make this sound like, oh, you're a hero, I mean, yeah, that kind of gives the emotions and the ego a little bit of a trip, and I'm not demeaning that. Okay, I want everybody back home to understand. I'm not demeaning that. What I want you guys to understand is that we don't look at it as a sacrifice in that, because that's just what I should be doing. There is people in Mexico, so we're recording this on the Monday after Mencha was killed. That the streets are on fire, people are killed, the cartel is going crazy, and I get a whole bunch of texts. Hey, you guys, okay? I praise the Lord that people praying back home. Don't go out. Don't do this. Don't do that. Okay, this is part of it. Okay, we said on the last podcast. Okay, the way the cartels are going to get changed is not by political force or because President Trump comes in and declares war and where just everything goes up in flames. No, it's because we're going to reach them with the gospel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm on the front lines, and I don't look at it as like, oh, look at me, I'm on the front lines, I'm a hero. No, I don't think anybody that's a hero really thinks that they're a hero. And whenever they are presumed to be and looked at it, it's like, hey, like, guys, you would have, hopefully you would have ran into the building too. Okay, that's I'm hoping that we're on the same page, that if this person was going to get run over, that you would have done something. Okay, so that's how I look at this whole scenario too. Is we're doing what is our reasonable service. We're doing what the Lord has called us to do. So the selling of the house, the leaving the job, buying the RV, jumping on the road, driving thousands of miles, having another kid on the road, and just and continuing on, and even I'm gonna throw this out there, even towards the end, almost losing your wife to a sickness also in the hospital. You look at it and it's like, well, it was well worth it all, because I'm now where the Lord's called me to be, because I'm gonna be able to reach the people that the Lord has called me to reach.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think that is a whole, oh, we're reaching the masses and all this different stuff. It's about reaching the one. Okay.
Yeah.
The value of one. And so, Isaiah, when you're coming through deputation, and you saw everything that you saw in deputation, and now you're getting ready to get to the field, there's another hurdle that all three of us know that people don't understand. It is good to preach about it. It's good to talk about it. But when you have those tickets bought and you know you have a week left, there's something that happens inside of your heart. They're like, I am actually jumping off the bridge here. Lord help me. And so how was your take on that? How did you deal with that?
I mean, I guess for me and my family, the way, at least from my wife and I know it obviously wasn't easy. There's all those, you could say it's those last, I mean, it could be the last, you never know. I mean, the last time we go here, the last time we ever ate Chick-fil-A, the last time we see family, saying the goodbyes, and there's people that 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 you're going to say goodbye to, you're not going to see again. I mean, shortly after getting here, we saw one of our faithful church members back at our home church passed away. And, it's so there are those, I don't know, you could say that feeling of that separation, that you go through. But I guess the other side for it, and maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just me and my wife. For us, we had gotten married, and then we lived for a little while in New York. We're there for a little bit, moved to Florida, kind of were settled for a couple years before starting deputation and living in a camper. I mean, there's a small little, we sold our house, small little box with a whole family, Then you go to Airbnbs, profits chambers, all over the place. For us, getting to the field, we looked at it more as like, all right, now we can actually settle. Because our whole life, you could say our whole married life, we've been unsettled in the sense of just where we're at, and now we can actually plan on being at a place, Lord willing, where we can actually, you could say, just make it home. If that makes any sense, I guess. You live on the road so much with the kids and the traveling and everything. Now we don't have to travel real, and I mean, we obviously go around town, make trips to the capital from time to time, but we're it's in some ways our life here is more comfortable in certain aspects than our life was during deputation. So for us, we kind of looked at it as this is our new home, where there's that excitement of, all right, we're going to go somewhere, we're just going to adopt it, so to speak. But I guess now for us, you could say that the biggest anticipation was we had the tickets in hand, and the day we were supposed to leave, our flight was supposed to fly from, we were supposed to go from Pensacola to Dallas, Dallas to Doha, Qatar, from there to Zambia. And for whatever reason, Iran decided, hey, you know what? It's going to be fun to bomb Qatar today, bombing a U.S. base in Qatar. And it shut everything down. So I'm at Walmart picking up the last minute things, saying goodbye to Walmart. And then
I'm sorry. Goodbye to Walmart. That's
That
a classic.
that's a goodbye I can get behind, though. People say that there's no like culture in the United States. You want a cultural experience, go to Walmart after 10 o'clock in the evening and just observe the creatures that slink around the establishment.
Oh Lord.
Yep, yep. And I'm there, and I get a text from my brother-in-law. He's like, "Hey, have you seen what's going on?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm thinking. I'm like he's like, "Oh, I don't think you can go today." I'm like, "What on earth?" I'm looking at the news. I'm like, what's about to happen? And the Lord worked everything out. It was a long trip, some delays, some travel issues, but we ended up getting here. But yeah, it wasn't, because you could say there was its goodbyes. It had its hard moments, but I guess you could say it wasn't terrible either. So
How many
yeah.
hours was it? Oh.
Like oftentimes, like, go ahead. I apologize.
Yeah,
no.
you're probably about 60 or a little over 60
To get
hours.
to where from the time
Yeah.
you started traveling to the time you got there. 60 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many days is that?
I mean,
48.
basic, almost 3 days.
Good
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'd be burnt out after a day and a half. So
Yeah, it was exhausting. It was
Okay.
definitely exhausting.
It was really just a great example, having the right perspective there, being able to pivot away from, the American conception of how it's supposed to go to, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be and this is where I can be settled, as opposed to, oh, I'm missing out on so much.
Good perspective. Yeah, because I think actually you and I kind of talked about this, Isaiah, a little bit. I think sometimes what we see missionaries, the perspective that they have is um, they have left everything behind, and now it's almost like a complaining mentality, or I'm suffering for the Lord because or whatever, or clock in, clock out, it's easy to fall into that because you may be the only American presence in that area. You're struggling in order to find out where to go, per se, and how to develop relationships. And I understand that is a natural thing that can happen. I would encourage other missionaries, if you're listening to this, find other missionaries and fellowship. Don't complain. Find people that can help you spiritually, even though you're the spiritual one that needs to minister. Okay. I say that because the 4th of July and the Christmas and the Thanksgiving and the spending time at a barbecue, all of that is important. all of that is a connection with a family and a culture that, yes, you have left behind, but you also need to nurture, because if not, you're like, well, today's the 4th of July and nobody's celebrating anything. And I get to see all these pictures on Facebook of everybody doing, everything back there. And I wish I could be back home. Okay. The thing is that let's just be honest. Let's be real. And I know you're jumping on board with me at this, Isaiah, because you kind of alluded to this while we're talking about that's not your home. Okay. Your home is where you're at, where you're serving at. Okay. Your state, the states isn't your home anymore. You need to accept the will of God that where He's placed you, and minister to those people. But if you can have Americans around you that can say, "Hey, it's 4th of July. Hey, you want to get a barbecue? You want to do a barbecue together? You want to let some fireworks off? You want to do this? You want to do that?" That nurtures you. Okay, even though you think, whatever, I just don't like them. Well, there's a lot of people that we may not like. We may have differences with. You can still be in a disagreement with some certain people and still work with
Yeah.
them. They can still be an encouragement to you. That's the mature way of being a Christian, just FYI. And I'm not talking down to anybody. It's just it's the reality. There's people in the ministry that you're not going to see eye to eye with, but guess what? You're still part of the same spiritual family. So,
Yeah, here's
uh,
the crazy part. Like, I don't want to fellowship with someone unless I agree with them in every capacity. You don't even agree with yourself in every capacity. Undoubtedly, you have different opinions today than you had a couple months ago or a couple years ago.
I'm
Like, you
going to
don't
hide
even
behind this
agree with
coffee.
yourself. So, like, that can't be a stipulation for fellowship with somebody else.
I'm going to hide behind this coffee because I know both of you are going to agree with me on majority of the stuff that I say. So,
Yeah, yeah. What's the biblical percentage? It's 83%. And if you got above 83, then you can. I think
brother,
that's a great segue, actually. For those of you who haven't, yeah, because this typically doesn't even come in short-term mission trips. Culture shock. It's typically culture shock is when you are in a new culture and you realize everything about my life is different. Every part about how I relate with people is different. The time frame that they typically give, whether in veteran missionaries talk about, is about 6 months. Like, you get into a country and you're going through the day to day and everything's new and it's different, and I can't believe how it's so cool how these people work, and you see all the fun side of things. And then about 6 months, it's different for every person. It just sets in, oh, I'm stuck here. There is no Chick-fil-A. There's no fireworks show. This is
no
this
Taco
is
Bell.
it. Yeah,
No Taco
there's
Bell.
there's there's none of that. This idea where you don't get it on a missions trip because there's an end date. It's like, okay, well, in 2.5 weeks, I'm leaving and I'm gone. So you've been there in Zambia now, which Zambia is in the heart of the southern half of the dark continent. Incredibly rich, really awesome. For those of you who don't know, the famous Victoria Falls is on one of Zambia's borders there. So, but you are in a legit place that's going to have some pretty intense culture. Have you reached that point yet? It's possible that you haven't. And the difficulty is going to look a little bit different for everyone. But where are you with that, and how is God working you through the process?
Yeah. So for me, I guess seeing weird stuff, people doing weird things. I worked in a prison. I'm basically a maximum security prison in Santa Rosa County, Florida. I mean, I've seen weird things. um, Eating weird stuff. I mean, I really haven't even really eaten that weird of stuff. I mean, the food's different. It's more for there's a corn-based stuff that they eat called enshima. Then of course different relishes that go with that. Um, and we'll eat that. But and I mean, there's definitely different things you see. I mean, you'll see people seen someone carry a refrigerator on a motorbike, or they'll pile the bike up high with a bunch of stuff, and then someone will sit on top of it. I mean, the little 150cc motorcycles is the pickup truck of Africa, essentially. And it's incredible the stuff they do with that. And the Toyota Corollas, you'll see them in the middle of the village, middle of nowhere. I'm coming through in my big Land Cruiser, thinking I can destroy anything, get through any issue, and there's this little Toyota Corolla creeping along, and it makes you just sit there, and it shocks you. Um, but my wife and I, we were even talking about this, like, what exactly was it that you could say gave us a culture shock? And I mean, I feel like culture shock, it really hit us in a different way than we weren't expecting. Typically, again, you think of the different smells and the different things that people that just completely different, and you just weird out about it. That really wasn't the case for us. It was, I think, part of it, maybe for my wife, some, it was just being completely detached from family, and she doesn't like change, and it wasn't easy. The other thing that doesn't help, I mean, the time difference is it's very awkward trying to coordinate phone calls with family.
What is it to
It's
the Eastern time
difficult.
zone?
I mean, right now it's 1:41 in the morning. 1:41 a.m. So it's probably what 5:40,
5:41. 5:41.
5:41
5:41
over there.
Central Time. Yeah.
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 It makes things makes it difficult. And um, then for her, I mean that nurturing aspect of being a mother, being a wife, trying to take care of her family, her home. It it's not easy because she goes. I mean, here in town is the hardest part was trying to learn how do we live here in the sense of that's something you can't prepare for. Ministry is easy. You can prepare for ministry. You're starting in a new work. It's not like I mean, the stuff that we deal with on a regular basis ministry wise is you could say it's teaching people the fundamentals of the faith, Christianity. That's not the difficult part. But and I was talking to a friend of mine as well. He's saying people don't leave the mission field over the ministry aspect. It's because a lot of the times they leave the mission field over not being able to live there and or just trying to cope with how do we live in this country. I mean, stuff as simple as even just getting electricity. In the States, I mean, I lived in Florida. We'd pay our FLP. We would get you get your bill in the mail, or you get it online. You pay it, and you just do it. You get the bill, whatever. Take care of it. Here, beginning of the month, you got to buy. You actually buy units, and you prepay for your electricity, and then you get this like 20-digit code that you have to punch into a meter box, a little keypad on your meter on the wall, and that's how you get your electricity. And if it works, it's there. If it doesn't, then if you get load shedding, but just stuff like that is steps you have to learn. How do I do this? And you feel like you're a competent adult, and now you feel like you're a kid not understanding. Okay, how do I where do I go pay my water bill? Where do I how do I do this? Where do I go for spices and for groceries? And instead of going to one store for all your all your groceries, you go to 6 different places and find half of what you need. And I mean that's how life is. And learning how to adjust to that, I think for us was probably one of the more challenging aspects of just trying to figure out how do we live here and just survive on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, a lot of people also with that, sometimes they think that if you're a missionary in Africa, I mean, you're living in a mud hut, thatch roof, like they think that's the concept most people have of Africa. And, I thank the Lord, and that isn't our situation. We minister to people in those situations from time to time. Um, and Africa is a developing nation, and there's parts in the capital you'll go to, and you'll be like, you think that, wow, you feel like you stepped into the U.S. or another European country. I mean, people driving nice cars, paved roads, nice buildings. I mean, at our home, we have electricity. We got running water. We got water heaters. We have AC units. I mean, we we live a comfortable life. There's drawbacks, obviously here and there, but we also get things that you don't get in the States. I mean, every 3 times a week, we get fresh milk delivered to our house. 3 times a week. We don't have to go out for it. Every Wednesday morning, we get vegetables delivered straight to our house. I mean, stuff like that. You don't get that in this. I mean, I guess you do now with DoorDash, but
Not
there's
fresh.
not fresh. I mean, so stuff like that you also get to experience. You also get to learn. Once you overcome those things and you begin to figure out, how do I live here? What are the things I can get? How do I pay this? How do I deal with this? What's the process of getting a driver's license? What's the process of of um of registering a vehicle? And you get through all the bureaucracy of it, and you start to settle in, and you just adopt it for yourself, I guess. And I guess and the Lord, ultimately, he gives you the grace, and that's the biggest part. And there's times where it's been tough and times where it's been easy, and I thank the Lord, I mean, for it all. I think it's the Lord that ultimately has to give you that grace to get through it, and then just to adopt it, to adopt it.
For sure. Now, you talked about the electric. All right. So you've shared with me that you have 3 hours usually a day where you don't have electric, or how does that work?
So it was that way during the dry season, especially the peak of the dry season. Zambia uses a lot of its electricity is hydroelectric. They have some big dams in different parts of the country, and they use a lot of hydroelectricity. But as the dry season progresses, the less water is in the dams, especially they have a poor rainy season, then at the beginning of the year, then you're going to have lower water levels. And that is one of the things that leads to we call it load shedding, blackouts, where sometimes you'll get 2 or 3 hours a day in different parts of town. Other areas you'll get more, but you also pay a lot for electricity. I mean, so it kind of depends where you are exactly in the city. Our home with the main electric group, we were getting around 3 hours. Now it's pretty consistent. We're in rainy season. We have a pretty good electric. Our area, they're starting to do more solar farms as well. They're starting to push that a lot. The Chinese are really kind of investing into Africa as a whole, bringing a lot of solar panels, and it's, I mean, there's
Strictly for
there's
charitable
this,
reasons too.
exactly charitable reasons, and they're just trying to be a
Only
blessing.
Only.
And so anyway, it's it has helped some, but we knew coming here, the load shedding was an issue, so we raised extra money, and the Lord allowed us to be able to buy a solar system for our house. So even if there is no electric, we do pretty well without without being connected to the grid. So
Now, a follow-up question on that. I know it's Bob's turn, but I'm kind of, because you talked about this a little bit. Um, you said you got into Zambia, and as you come into Zambia, your culture shock on, hey, I feel like a little kid. I'm trying to figure out where to do this and this and that. When you were getting your appliances and stuff like that, and you started seeing the cost of appliances, just to have a simple American setup at your house. How was that? Kind of talk that through.
there's definitely sticker shock.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
there's a lot of things are double the cost. There's things here, if you can get it local, it's very cheap. Um, I mean, if you're getting something like carpentry done, it's done here in the country, it's cheap. You get vegetables, produce, meat, even it's all fairly inexpensive. Um, the but anything, if it's imported, then it has a hefty price tag. Zambia is landlocked, so that also hurts it. I mean, stuff either has to get shipped in from South Africa through Zimbabwe to Zambia, A lot of stuff comes through Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, Mozambique, Malawi, uh, and Namibia. So because of the transport just to get stuff here, it does make things more costly, especially if you have to import it. Sometimes things are double the cost and half the quality. So it's just uh, definitely it can add up quickly. The expense, especially the startup costs, can be very expensive at the beginning. Even vehicles, I mean, vehicles are typically almost double the cost it would be in the States. And so it does make it makes it expensive, makes it difficult at the beginning, but again, you eventually you kind of plow through it. So
I was just pausing. I was just making sure. You never know how the Spirit might lead. So, right with you there, brother. I remember I was like 16, 15, and like a PlayStation was real big, like PlayStation 1. No, not to tip my age too much to everybody, but PlayStation 1 was getting kind of big, and they had a European system, which wouldn't have really interested me too much anyways, because you couldn't play like the American sports games on it. You could only play like the Europe formatted games. But like the first time it came out to the Ivory Coast, its cost was like $3,000 or $4,000, and this is back in like the early 2000s. I was like, that will never be me. I'll never forget. Like, I'll never forget my 16th birthday, because someone had come out on a missions trip and they had picked a new one up in the States for a couple $100, and they brought it out as a gift to me. And that was like, I never thought I would ever have anything like that ever. So there's a lot of things that are, just priced out in these countries. I know this is the case in the Ivory Coast. They tax everything at 100% because they want to get the whole value. So if they didn't fabricate it in country and they weren't able to get tax or revenue that way, so if you're bringing in a truck that costs 45,000, it now costs at least 90,000, because whatever its market retail value is, you pay 100% tax. Missionaries work really, really hard to get exemptions for religious literature, like Bibles and stuff like that. But if the country's playing hardball, sometimes they'll tax you on that literature too. What would this sell for on Amazon or in a bookstore? And then you have to pay those taxes. So that's a level of expenditure that isn't present in most situations in churches in the States. You're not having to worry about that extra layer. Some things are cheaper. There's a lot of things that are a lot more expensive. But God is good. Over time in the Ivory Coast, a lot more has become available than
yeah.
before, and I would assume that to be the case with Zambia as well. But speaking of Zambia, because I'm curious, like West Africa is a little bit different from Central South Africa, but there are certain universal African principles of culture. So question, what is one major cultural thing that you're working through right now, an obstacle? Like for instance, in the Ivory Coast, if you're a foreigner, you're really gonna have to fight through the conception that you're Mr. Moneybags and that you are the solution to everyone's problem. It's difficult to have a real relationship with someone if they view you to be that person. Or the other thing that came to mind was it's a very much a patriarchal age society. So if you're on the younger side, then you just don't have a voice in the community the way you did if you were 40 or 50 or 60. Are either of those true in Zambia? And what are you doing to work through it?
No, definitely. Um, so with the money side of things, a lot of people, I mean, they see skin color, they see this is a foreigner, and naturally, they're gonna there is a mindset, for us as as Westerners, for we it can be sometimes it's shameful for us to ask for money. Sometimes if I were to say, hey Gavino, hey, can you lend me $1,000, that's going to take some boldness on my end, and it's going to seem like, what, you don't have $1,000? Like, I mean, what are you not working? I mean, go get a job. Like, that's what comes to our mind. It's uncomfortable to do that for us. And but I think with Africa as a whole, there's such a communal mindset that there is this mindset that, hey, it's just normal. Like, what are you going to lose there's nothing for me to lose if I ask you for 1,000 because, hey, you have it. So therefore you should lend it to me and so people automatically, they look and they say, hey, well, that person has money. It doesn't hurt to ask. And there isn't that sense of shame or feeling of well, I look like someone who doesn't work and who can't provide for himself because everyone there's suffering everywhere, so it's maybe more common. And again, it's that communal mindset that if you're going through a hard time, I'll help you, and if I'm going through a hard time, then you're expected to help me. So that is so there is that challenge. And for us, where we are ministering, I mean, our city, it's a city of about 300,000 or so. And I mean, I would say in Africa as a whole, you have a mix of, you could say, classes. You have your lower class who lives in very high density areas or very rural areas like villages. Or you have the high density areas be compounds. And then you have the middle to upper class where they live in houses like the house I live in. They work good paying jobs. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're people in the government. I mean, they work white collar jobs. And the church that we are in ministry we're working in specifically, we are working with more that demographic. It's an English speaking demographic. And with that, we don't have that pressure of people asking for stuff because there isn't, I mean, they don't need anything from me. And it makes our relationships with them more genuine as well. Because I was having a conversation with a member of our church recently. I mean, he has a good job and we're talking with each other like you and I are talking with each other now. There isn't any pressure of having a friendship, having a relationship being built upon, well, when are they going to ask me the question, when they can have some money? Because it's, I mean, for us as a whole, when people ask, we just say, I'm sorry, I can't. And you can give an explanation however way it seems fit for you to explain. But and people throughout the city, those who come and ask, eventually they do get used to saying, hey, this guy, this Mzungu doesn't give money, so just leave him alone. And they realize that you're not a tourist passing through, that you're not just there for a couple weeks, and they know you live here. And again, I mean, you'll have people. I had it today. Someone popped me the question, say, hey, can you they want me to give them some food or give them some money, but and part of you feel bad, and we have things that we're doing for the long term to help, and we try to be generous, and we try to help wherever we can in different ways. But when it comes to especially our church and trying to build a strong church, we want the relationships to be built ultimately around Christ and our relationship with the Lord, not with financial strings, not oh, they're coming to church because they're going to work, they're going to get a job with the Mzungu, or they're coming to church so that this guy's going to help cover their rent for the month. If we start doing that, we will build a church very quickly, and we'll build not a church, we'll build a crowd. And there's a difference. There's a big difference between building a church and building a crowd. And we'll get a crowd, but it's all around the dollar, and it's around me being God, not Christ being God. And so that's one of the challenges. The other one would, like you talked about, the age difference. Here in Africa, I think as a whole, youth is from about 15 to 35. And I will challenge it with people. I'll say, it's interesting. Middle youth is all the way up to 35, but the life expectancy is around 60. So when is middle age then? Like, I mean, where is the middle age category? And they'll sit there and they'll stare at me like a calf looking at a new gate, and they're like, they don't get it. And but for so that I think, and maybe this is just Zambia. Maybe it could be Africa as a whole. Africa, I feel like, is moving more away from some of the traditional African ways of things being done.
Yes.
And there's the good elements of it. There also comes the bad. There comes the socialism, the progressive left with that. But something that they've been really trying to emphasize here in Zambia is getting youth involved in government and youth empowerment movements. And there's the good, the bad, and the ugly with that. However, I think that you could say kind of that movement, it kind of goes against the hierarchy of, we can't listen to you unless you are 40, 50 years old. Then the culture is starting to move away from that to, we're all more on a level playing field, I guess. So for myself, I mean, I'm under 30, but I haven't, I mean, at least that I've noticed for myself, I haven't
Am I the
had that.
oldest?
I think
How
so.
old are you, Gavino?
I'm 33. He'll be 34 in May.
Okay, praise the Lord. All right.
Why? Are you younger? Yeah, wait, you older than me? How much older are you?
I turned 34 in December.
Oh, you turned 34 already in December.
No. Yeah, I will turn.
So I'm older than you?
Yeah.
Let's not make that public. I'm definitely not mature in that area.
I'm so sorry, Isaiah. I had to know.
All right. Yeah. So you're looking at it as, you're a young guy. You're 29, right? 28, 29. How old are you? Is that
Me? No, I'm 25.
You're 20. Whoa. Okay. I don't know
Wisdom
why.
beyond his years.
Okay. Yes. All right. So you're coming in and you're ministering at a younger age, right? And so, I mean, yeah, you have politicians that are running government and stuff like that too at the same time. So, I mean, you can somewhat have grounds on being able to minister, and they still have respect and stuff like that because now of the new influence. So I mean, that's a plus. I mean, we'll look at it that way. I mean, that is something where, you don't have to be 65 years old, and that's their perspective of a missionary that they can, kind of learn from. So that's a good thing. Bob, I said I was not going to talk, so it's your turn again.
Well, I was just thinking, do you have any, but before we ask like our final call out question, I just thinking of our absolute trooper. Isaiah sets the record for like most inconvenient time ever to join us for a podcast. It's 2:00 in the morning where he's at right now. So I figured if you had any wrap up questions before we do this sign out, I figured I'd let you go ahead and ask that.
All right, here we go.
This man's about to get up and do his devotions in an hour and 15 minutes.
He's literally going to sleep an hour and a half and get back up. All right, so Isaiah, I would have to say kind of one of the last questions that we always ask. All right, and I'm just going to go with something generic because I know we need to get Isaiah back to bed here. So if you could give some words of wisdom to the next generation, what would that be? Something that you have learned in your 25 years of experience in life, and you grew up in ministry, you grew up serving the Lord in church, and just share a little bit of your heart of what, just something you can share to the next generation.
Yeah. I guess for myself, I would say, it's time to grow up, so to speak. Quit yourself like men. Be a man for a young man, for a young lady. Be a woman, and I think so often young people want to live their lives to their teenage years, their early youth, to serve themselves. And I guess for myself, there was people in my life that motivated me to want to grow up. And you know, the Bible talks about let no man despise thy youth, and but be thou an example to the believer. And I think sometimes as teenagers, young adults, sometimes there's this mindset that we can't be used of God. There's still time. I can start getting serious about serving God tomorrow, a few years from now, and I don't have to prepare myself today. But God can use you whatever age you are, whether you're 15 years old or you're in your later years. God can use you regardless of your age. And as a young person, I think take those steps to get started early. I mean, whatever it is, do something to build yourself. Surround yourself with older people. Even my father, growing up, he always encouraged me to try to surround myself with wise older men. And I mean, oftentimes I'd find myself at church just trying to talk just to the old guys. I mean, guys that they're 40, 50 years older than I am, and some of those people were men that I was closest to, and that really had an impact on me. I mean, I had people who were in their 70s. They're closer friends than other friends who were in the same age. They were my peers, and and I guess if I could say anything, develop, take steps to develop yourself and to develop your walk with the Lord and to develop your spiritual growth. It's not going to happen on its own. And there's not a day where you magically wake up and boom, now you're this adult who can now serve the Lord. It starts when you're a young person. And so many Christians and adults are stunted because in their spiritual walk with the Lord, because they didn't develop that walk when they were younger. And I don't know, I don't know if those are words of wisdom or just, but
Well, that's perfect.
that's, yeah.
Perfect. I mean, I think all three of us can echo that. I grew
I
up
mean, that's the
always,
premise for the show. Like
exactly.
our
Yeah,
our conversations were like
perfect.
coffee with the preacher, just at a dinner table, sipping coffee after church or in the morning, just listening to the preachers talk and the men of God. You know, that's what inspired this podcast.
All right, follow-up question. Since you said that, Bob, and since Isaiah, I kind of know a little bit about his personal life. How has Coffee with the Preacher been a blessing to you, specifically being 25 and also, kind of watching what you've
Yeah.
watched on this podcast?
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I haven't watched all of your episodes. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I don't want to break your heart.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
But
We're not famous.
but uh probably the one I got a big blessing out of was actually with Bob Mack Sr. The first one you did, and then I was listening to the just recently listening to this last one you guys did. And maybe it's just because of it being has so many years in Africa, but getting to hear it from another missionary, and even this last one, he was kind of talking about when is it time to hand a church over, and how does that process look? Um, it's good to the missionary that I'm working with. He's a veteran here, and he has his ways of doing things, trying to uh, not rush the church and let it develop more organically. And that goes against the grain of a lot of missions philosophies.
Mhm.
But as an encouragement, when you see another veteran missionary echoing the exact same thing, and the desire is not to start the 19 churches that are probably going to fall apart because the pastors are unqualified and they have 2 wives, and I can go on. But um but starting churches that are going to last and that are going to be done in God's timing, not in the pressure to do it so that other supporting churches pat us on the back and say, you're a success because you've started 30 churches in so many years. And seeing that, that's been an encouragement. Hearing it from another missionary who's been there, done that, and you could see that, not the light at the end of the tunnel, but you can see it done, and that's what's been an encouragement.
Awesome. Well,
Praise the Lord.
we're gonna let you go because you need to get to sleep, my brother. And so we, personally, I say from my family to you, I say, hey, we love you, we pray for you, brother, and you're not alone. We're praying right alongside you, and keep in there. You have 7 months, 8 months underneath under your belt. Keep on pressing forward. You guys are doing amazing, and I'm proud of you, bro. I'm gonna say that. I'm always gonna try to people that we can encourage. I'm gonna just try to tell them publicly. I'm proud of you, bro, and how you've finished deputation. You got over there. You're going through the culture shock and still ministering and sticking through with it. And I'm glad that you're my friend. So, Bob, any last words? And if not, you can go ahead and sign us off.
Well, it's absolutely, brother. Pleasure to meet you, Isaiah, and talk with you. And just want you to know, Michaela and I will be praying for you guys as well. And my heart really goes out to you guys. Really excited about what God is doing. He's going to bless the perspective that you have. And so just encourage you in that, brother. So thank you for being with us. We definitely look forward to having you again. And yes, I apologize. That was my son. He's evidently he wants to make a little cameo on the podcast as well.
That's good.
But just yeah, the famous one. But anyways, appreciate you joining us today, Isaiah. Thank you to all of our other viewers, listeners who are with us today. We greatly appreciate you having here. And next time we get together, grab a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, meet us at the table. We'll see you there.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.